Hi, everyone. My name is Charlene Platon, CEO and co-founder of Fifth Window, and welcome to our November 2023 Fifth Window Spotlight. We are so excited to have you all today. We have an amazing guest here with us. And before we dive into that, I just want to remind everyone that right now we are streaming live on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Facebook. So if you have any comments or questions during the conversation, please feel free to go ahead and write that in the chat, and we'll be able to address that if we're able to throughout the live stream. And so with that said, just some background about our spotlights. We host these monthly Fifth Window Spotlights to highlight the diverse profession of nursing and to also highlight the journeys of well-being and self-care of different nurses around the country. And so we are very thankful to have you all today. And I'm just going to get this live stream started by introducing our team. So I'll go ahead and add Kathy to the room.
Hi, everyone. Welcome. I'm Kathy Schaefer. I am a co-founder of Fifth Window, registered nurse and certified compassion fatigue professional.
Great. Thank you so much, Kathy. And I'm very excited and honored to welcome our November 2023 Spotlight guest, Ayan Said. Ayan is a mom, registered nurse, serial entrepreneur, and artist. She is currently co-founder and chief clinical officer of Planly Health, which is a data-driven risk assessment solution for health systems. And prior to Planly, Ayan co-founded Navi-Nurses, which is a seven-figure startup and recipient of a $1.5 million grant. Ayan is also champion for nursing, mental health, and well-being. So welcome, Ayan. Thank you so much for being here with us today.
Hi, Charlene. Hi, Kathy. Hi, everybody. Thanks so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here and talk to you all.
Yeah, we are so excited to have you. It's so good to see you. I know we've met a few times before, and it's so nice to connect again through the live stream and just through our community. And thank you so much for all the amazing work that you do. We're really excited to get into it. And just wanted to start the conversation first by learning a little bit more about your nursing journey. And can you tell us a little bit about what inspired you to become a nurse? And, tell us more about your nursing journey.
Yeah, of course. So I've been a nurse for 7 years, and I actually never wanted to be a nurse. It wasn't what I wanted to pursue. But I was finishing up my last year at ASU. That's where I was doing my undergrad. I was actually studying psychology, and I was pregnant at the time, and I had my daughter, and she was born premature. She's got a genetic condition called Ehlers-Danlos. And it's a connective tissue disorder, but yeah, she was premature, and she spent some time in the NICU. Everybody was amazing in the NICU, all the doctors, the nurses, and the staff, but the nurses made such an impact on my daughter and myself and my family, and I wanted to be like them when I grew up. And so I finished up my undergrad, and I decided to pursue nursing. I ended up going to U of A, and it was an expensive program, but it was the quickest program that I could find that would accept me. And it's actually kind of a funny story. I didn't get accepted the first time. I was put on a wait list. And so I was just kind of hanging out, and I dropped off my daughter one day at preschool, and they called me on the way, just like a week before school started, and they surprised me with an acceptance. And so that's my story. Yeah.
Wow, that is incredible. Oh, go ahead, Kathy.
Sorry, I didn't want to interrupt, but I never actually ended up working in the NICU. I did interview right after I graduated, but it was my first interview right after nursing school, and it was a really intense, like, group panel interview. But I'm glad I didn't, because I ended up working at Mayo, where I met my business partner, which I'm sure you'll ask me about soon. But I always like to share that story. Yeah.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
Yeah, that's a great story. So I am a not only am I a co-founder of Fifth Window, but I'm also a faculty member here on the East Coast at Thomas Jefferson University. And I'm always interested when students or when people share their nursing stories, their nursing journeys, because many people think that from the time they're really little, most people dream of being a nurse. And it's always, I find, the students or the nurses who nursing becomes their second career, really are their passion and because that it was something, a conscious decision to go into nursing, not following up like a parent's footsteps, or when they were a child having an illness and a nurse took care of them. It's a conscious decision. So I'm always interested, and I find it fascinating. I also find it fascinating when people go back to school having young families, and I would imagine you went through an accelerated program because you already had
Yeah.
a master's degree. I am fascinated how people navigate that world. So how did you navigate that world as a new student, a new mom, or a young mom, I should say, and in an intense accelerated nursing program?
I couldn't have done it without support. I'm so blessed, and I know a lot of people don't have like family support, but I'm Somali, so family's like everything to us. And so my grandma at that time, she was living with me, and my mom was available too. And I'm the oldest of seven, and so there's a lot of us, and everybody's pitching in, and that's how we got it done. Thank goodness it was an accelerated program.
Mm.
And I wanted to touch on the passion piece as well. That's so true. I was actually anti-healthcare for the longest time, just because of my background, being brown and refugee and immigrant. And so, of course, my parents always wanted me to pursue healthcare, or be an engineer or a lawyer. That's why they came to America. That's the American dream. And so I never wanted to be in healthcare. I had like an aversion to it. But where I was kind of going with that is, it wasn't just the experience that I had in the NICU. It was like I read a book by Cal Newport. It's called "Be So Good They Can't Ignore You." He wrote another really good one called Deep Work, but the premise of that first book is it's not always passion. It's something that you can, like an interest that develops into passion. You work towards it, and you can build that passion. And I don't know, that I thought that was really interesting. Just I had that experience in the NICU with my daughter, and then I didn't instantly become passionate about healthcare, but going to school, just building that, getting the experience, and caring for patients, and just really diving into nursing, and it grows still every day, even with business, and so because I get that question asked a lot too, like how do I know if I'm passionate about nursing, or how do I know if I'm passionate about business? You don't. You just pursue that little inkling interest, and you follow it and see where it takes you, and then you just dive deep. That's really what it is, and it builds. And
Yeah,
that's like really empowering, I think.
Yeah, I appreciate your interest, and then as it gets bigger, it grows bigger, and more. Nursing for me was a second degree as well. I had no intention of becoming a nurse, but when I made the decision, like I truly made the decision, and I went to nursing school and I did it. I tell people, like, I put my toe in, and then I just dove headfirst, and I think that, as I think Charlene could probably, agree with us when we say that the passion and the innovation that we bring to the experience to the table as nurses who have a different degree than nursing the first time around, it just expands, I think, beyond just the bedside, which I'm very eager to hear about how your journey continued beyond the bedside.
I'm excited to
Yeah.
share.
Yeah, that's a great transition, Kathy. Ayan, you have such an amazing and interesting journey, and just kind of related to what Kathy was mentioning, how did you, how did you go from transitioning as a nurse, in the hospital system to becoming an entrepreneur? We talked a little bit about your journey in the introduction, but how did you know that you wanted to pursue entrepreneurship, or how did you kind of come into that journey? Because it's so different from nursing.
It is. It's different, but also really similar, I think. I always say that nurses make the best entrepreneurs. We're really resourceful. We have plans A through Z. We communicate with everybody. We handle really difficult situations, forecasting. Just we're good with numbers. So, but just thinking about my journey in entrepreneurship, I've always had an interest in entrepreneurship. Um, I I watched my dad build a business, and I just always thought it was really, really fascinating, and I think it just worked really well with my ADHD brain. Just, I mean, just business in general, honestly. And I did, before I went to nursing school, um, and I was just working like my regular 9 to 5 job, I did have a little sewing business. So I sewed women's clothing and children's clothing on Facebook, and that was like my first kind of like business hobby. And so that kind of led me to just reading books about business, and I got my street MBA. And sorry, the screen changed and I was like, oh my gosh, did I lose them? Sorry about that. Okay,
No,
sorry.
we're here. We're just,
Okay.
yeah, the layout might change.
I thought my internet went off or something. I'm at a co-working space, so I apologize. But just thinking
Yeah,
about
no
what I was
worries.
talking about, um, I was just reading different books and going to different like startup events and meetings and conferences, um, up until being a registered nurse, and I still did that through the hospital. I never actually got my MBA. I never went to school for business, but just kind of learning things on my own through books and YouTube. YouTube's a really great resource, and podcasts and things like that. Did I answer your question, Charlene? I feel like I went kind of different areas, but
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
I think so. Go ahead, Kathy.
I was going to say I have a follow-up question. So you're at the bedside, and you have this, this part of you that has always wanted to, just delve into any kind of business, your sewing business, and you were interested in what was there one thing at the bedside that you were like, this could make life for me as a nurse at the bedside easier, better. This could make patient engagement quality. Like, what was that one thing that sparked you to start your first business?
Every day I would write a business idea down. I had a giant document. Every day I would just write something down, whatever problems that I saw. And I continued going to different startup events and conferences. And what happened was I saw my former business partner, Jasmine Bhatti, she's the CEO of Navi, at these meetings and conferences. And I was like, hey, I know you. We worked on the same floor at Mayo, and that's pretty rare in nursing. Right now, there are a lot more nurse entrepreneurs, but 4 or 5 years ago, there weren't a lot of us. And so just seeing somebody that worked on the same floor that I did, that was also a nurse, it was really exciting and motivating seeing her there. And so we started talking and becoming friends. And at that point, I didn't have any solid business plan that I really wanted to pursue. And The other thing was I wanted to build a business with somebody in a team setting, not just be by myself. I just, as much as I loved my other businesses, and they were really fun, I had decided that if I, wanted to get serious about business and actually do something, it would be in a team setting. And so I kind of like was priming myself with all the books and the meetings, and just everything kind of aligned when I met Jasmine, and she told me about an idea that she was thinking about that was just a concept at that time, and that was Navi-Nurses. And of course, before learning about it, I said yes immediately because I knew her as a person, and our values aligned. And um, it was just really exciting, and it made sense. It was something that we all experience as nurses. I think, when you're discharging a patient, you're giving them all the information, you've been educating them, throughout your shift, and your colleagues have been trying to help as well, trying to get them set up at home, and they get to the point of discharge, and you go through everything, you get to the end, and they're like, can you come home with me? Because they're scared and overwhelmed, or they might not have any support, and that's where Navi comes in. It's because we've all discharged a patient who we knew was potentially coming back. The first 12 hours that a patient is discharged, that's when things hit the fan. A lot of medication errors can occur during the first 12 to 24 hours. They're confused about their instructions. They don't have the right equipment. As hard as you can try, there's only so much that you can do at the bedside, honestly. But yeah, that's where Navi came in, and so it made sense to me. And so we spent the first couple of years just building the foundation for the business. And so all the boring stuff like legal and contracts and logos and colors and all that stuff.
Charlene, can I just ask you another question? I find this journey fascinating because I think it's very similar to us, but from a faculty perspective, I wish new to practice nurses or nursing students could really value and understand, discharge planning, discharge instructions in the hospital, and you got to see it firsthand, right? And you built a business around it, because I think so many, new to practice nurses, they're so caught up in the adrenaline and the skills and the tasks, and they don't see that discharge instructions, which are not the glamorous part of our job, are probably more essential to someone being successful when they leave. So can you just tell us a little bit more about Navi-Nurses, like what it is, what it does? I think that people, first of all, I love it and I'm fascinated by it.
Yeah, of course. So have you heard of private duty nursing? It's kind of,
Yes.
yeah, it's kind of like that, just a modern private duty nursing. So essentially just being able to hire a nurse on demand, for at home or wherever you are, in a hotel, whatever that looks like, for when you're either discharged from the hospital or you've recently had surgery. So you as a patient would call us, or your family would call us, and you let us know what's going on clinically, and then we set you up with a nurse. So if you've recently been discharged from the hospital with a stroke, we set you up with a nurse that has a neuro background. And depending on the help that you need in your budget, because it's not covered by insurance, so it's an out-of-pocket expense. We would help you come up with the number of hours. So we had 1 hour or 4 hours or a 12-hour shift, just depending on what you needed and what your budget was. And so that was really the biggest difference between the older private duty nursing concept versus Navi, or our idea was to eventually create an app, kind of like Uber for nurses. And so somebody can order a nurse on demand for whatever that you need. And that's really where that idea came from. Did I answer your question, Kathy?
Yeah, no, you did it. And so again, and I hate to like totally shift the our planned questions that we had for you, but
No,
I
go
that's
ahead.
all
It's
part,
okay.
I think it's part of having a great conversation.
It is.
So my background in teaching is population and public health.
Yeah.
And so, and we know that the future of nurses 2030 is really
Mhm.
focused on social determinants of health. And the AACN Essentials has a whole new essential dedicated to population health. And I find it, I really, again, like I said, I just find it fascinating that here, and people will say, but we're educating nurses for jobs that aren't out there yet, right? Because the insurance company is not caught up with paying for nurses at home, right? Yes,
Mhm.
you get home health, and yes, you can get your Medicare benefits, but that's not substantial for, having a nurse 4 hours, 6 hours, 8 hours, right? You might get a couple visits a week by a registered nurse, and it's more aid kind of work. So I think, Navi-Nurses, that whole idea that you started, even though it was private duty, um, taking that whole concept and using your business model, and I'm sure you probably have great outcomes to show that insurance companies now should be covering, like, the nurse that you at Navi would send out. Instead of just an hour to do an intake, there should be a registered nurse who could be there for 4 hours and things like that. So I applaud you for being ahead of the curve and really being able to kind of like show again, like, because everybody says, what is the ROI? What's the ROI? And in nursing, we have to show that it's quality outcomes in order to get compensation. So I think that's really a great thing to have as nurses to use as part of evidence to say we have this information.
Yeah.
So and not so Navi-Nurses, how did that then lead to your next business that you just developed?
Oh, and I just wanted to touch on, I think you had mentioned just when we were thinking about when we went into Navi-Nurses and we started it, and we started taking our first couple of patients, we this was like a whole new world for me, because all I had known was bedside nursing. And there are so many things that I never considered as a bedside nurse that patients have to deal with at home. And healthcare really starts at home. There's such a complexity at home. There's, different family dynamics. There's, oh my gosh, there's just like a slew of things that I had never thought about or was even taught in nursing school. Um, and you can't teach everything in nursing school. That,
Mm-hmm.
you really can't. But home is that's where healthcare starts. That's where it really does, because you can set somebody up with everything in the hospital when they're getting discharged, and then it just falls apart when they get home. So what's the point? you know? And I wish I had seen that um, in nursing school, because maybe that would have been more helpful as in my nursing practice in the hospital. So I was just thinking about that. But then also, Jasmine and I, we're both women. We're both brown. Uh,
Mm.
I'm a refugee, and going into this business, we, as nurses too, we wanted to give care for free to everybody, of
We all
course,
do.
and
I
you
know.
can't
Wouldn't
have
that
a
be
business
that'd
when
be
you do
great?
that. Yeah, yeah, and to this day, I still do. Like, just give a lot of things free, give a lot of things away. It's hard. That's a whole nother tangent, but what I'm trying to say for that is, just going into this business with Navi, it's a private out of pocket service, and it was expensive because we considered, paying the nurses salaries that we would want to get paid, compensating them with the work that they're doing and their education and their backgrounds and their expertise, and everything on the business back end as well, like all the administrative work, all the marketing that went into it. And so with all of that, we ended up being like one of the most expensive private duty nursing companies in the valley, but our nurses were really happy, but as women that are minorities, we had always envisioned that everybody would be able to have this type of nursing service, and they deserve to have a nurse by their side. Everybody does, not just people that can afford it. And so with that mindset, that was always there. So we started with what we could, built a business, got the revenue, and then we applied for the ANF grant, the Reimagining Nurses, and that was really exciting because the intention for that was to collect the data and to show that this works. we can help with so much if you utilize nurses on a deeper level, and everybody deserves it. And so that was really exciting milestone for us last year, because we would be able to, like I said, collect the data, quantify what we're doing, and show that we can actually make an impact that makes sense to hospitals, like readmission, infection rates, even burnout with nurses. And so, yeah, that's what I wanted to say about the grant, and thinking about the value of nursing and compensating nurses, and healthcare starting at home. Oh my gosh, that's a whole nother topic we can talk about. But yeah. Oh, and then you were asking.
You've brought up yeah.
How did that?
I was going to say, you bring up.
Oh, sorry, Kathy. I think your audio. Oh, can you hear us now? Okay.
Yeah, I think I'm on
there
a
you
little
go.
bit of a delay here. Sorry. Here I come back. So, you bring up so many different things that I would like to touch upon, but I know, we only have an hour. We should have 2 hours with you. But I talk to my students. I talk to my to new to practice nurses, because they're in my wheelhouse, and I share with them that our goal as nurses, no matter where you engage with anyone along the care continuum, is to keep them moving forward and not backwards. So even though I may be the bedside nurse, I still have to figure or think about where you're going next, who you're going to, and will you be successful in the plan that we put together, right? And it sounds like, you and I have the same kind of mindset regarding that. And when you talked about how, you wish you could give, people, people don't want to compensate nurses for the value of their work, which is, that's a whole nother topic. And that is a lot of people who are working on our behalf right now, trying to make that as part of the conversation. But you're right. I teach a class in innovation to nursing where students do think of an entrepreneurial idea and they pitch it in a nurse tank.
That's
And a lot of them, when they put their business model together, I'll say, well, how are you paying for this? Like, who's doing your work? And they will always say, oh, we'll get nursing students. Yes, we'll get a grant. I'm like,
That's
okay, well, first of
100%
all, there
free.
are no grants. Yeah, there are no grants available. Like, just ask all of us who are trying to find grants. There's no grants. So you take it off the board. And I said, I don't care if you're selling donuts on the street, and the money you make from your donuts, you will use to pay for the people in your business. But it's true. Nurses are not taught to value their worth. even since from nursing school, we're not taught to value our worth. So we're just going to keep doing everything in a volunteer basis, right? And I would imagine that that was what a lot of people wanted you to do in the beginning with your business. And you were like, no, this is a business. I need to be paid for my work.
Yeah, and it wasn't other people. It was so interesting. It was me, my mindset. Like it was so hard for me to ask people to pay this invoice or to even send the invoice. And I don't know why. Oh my gosh, yeah, just the first couple of times that we took care of patients for Navi, it was so hard for me to ask, send out a bill, ask for
Yeah.
payment, like take cash. It made me feel so bad, and I don't know why.
Yeah. Yeah. So can you tell us a little bit about your new business that you have going?
Yeah, of course. So now I'm at Planly Health. I was at Navi for 4 years. I left like end of December last year, early January. I I had a rough year last year. I
Mm,
went through a divorce and moving to a totally different place, and so it was just a really rough life transition for me. So just
yeah.
navigating that was tough. And so, yeah, I left and um, I took a year off. I took a year off and spent some time just baking cookies, going to the gym and taking care of my daughter. I have a 12-year-old going on 30. We've got a
Don't we
little
all?
preteen, and she's wonderful, but she's a those preteen years,
Mm.
I
Mhm.
remember them. and, and I apologize to my mom every day.
Oh,
um, but just, taking some time to be a mom um, and I needed it. Startup life is not, I was going to say not always, but a lot of the times it's really not conducive to family life and um, even just like self-care, honestly. But taking that time off to recalibrate, I ended up meeting up with some friends that I had known that worked at our co-working space in another spot in downtown Phoenix, but um, they they needed some help with like some clinical questions, and so of course I wanted to help them with whatever they needed. And eventually they were like, "Can you join us?" And of course, I said yes because I love their mission, and I just really love them as people. So it's Planly Health, still in healthcare. And so what we do is we've got an AI platform that detects burnout in clinicians. Not only detects burnout, but also combats it through um, telling the story, telling the story of data. A lot of hospitals don't either collect you know, data on burnout. And it's really, really complex. It's not just a shortage of people that are on the floor. It's really much more complex than that. It could be something that you're dealing with at home that's causing you to burn out. Maybe you're taking care of a sick loved one, and so it is able to target that burnout, and then we make recommendations based on that. And so an example would be um, I talked to this is like a couple weeks ago. I talked to a really amazing another nurse entrepreneur. His name's Alex. He's in Washington, but he made a platform that helps nurses get their breaks because sometimes we don't get bathroom breaks, sometimes we don't get lunch breaks, and that can absolutely lead to burnout. You're working these tough shifts, and but he's got this amazing platform, and hospitals don't know about that, and so we close the loop. We get the numbers and then support the the healthcare facilities with the actual strategies and tools to be able to combat that burnout. And so great mission. I love technology too. And I love the people. You know, my team we're all brown, and half the team is female, and we've all got kids. And I don't know, I felt right at home, and it felt kind of like a little family. So it's been great. I've been really enjoying it.
Yeah, that's great, Ayan. Thank you so much for sharing. There's so much I want to ask about. I know that our time, we're running short now on time, but I do want to first, we really do need you to come back for the 2 hours for the
Part two,
future live stream. Yeah,
yeah.
we'll do that one for the next one. I did want to first acknowledge the fact that you were able to recognize that you needed some time away after Navi-Nurses and you took a year off, which I personally don't really know many nurses who would do that. I think that is really hard to do because I think we're always so caught up in doing the next thing, not pausing and moving on and so forth. I also love the fact that both of the opportunities that you have with entrepreneurship, you are a co-founder as a nurse in some of these really great ideas, changing healthcare and changing the perception of healthcare. I did want to talk a little bit more too about your journey with wellness and mental health and well-being, and just wanted to share what gave you some inspiration or what gave you some courage to share about your experiences, because I know that you've shared some of your experiences on different social media platforms. And how did you feel the courage to be able to do that? Because I know that it's hard to do. And how would how would you encourage other nurses to share their stories, or what do you think is the main benefits of doing so in our profession?
I don't know that I have courage. I just did it, honestly. Sometimes it's better to not overthink it and just do it. It kind of reminds me of like when we started Navi, and we were picking up, like we started hiring a lot more. We started taking care of like a lot of patients, and we were getting money. You know, we were making revenue, and it was amazing. But we got to the point where we were like, is this a serious business if we're still at the hospital working? You know, at some point we need to get out. And what I did was, like I really didn't know what I was going to do. I was so scared, and it was terrifying because at that time I was the main breadwinner for my family, and I have a baby girl. But January 1st, the year that I was leaving, I set a date. I said June 5th will be the last shift that I work here at Mayo. And January 1st, I didn't have, healthcare benefits planned. Like I didn't have any money saved up. I didn't know what I was going to do. I didn't have any details, but I still set the date, and that was my time. And then it ended up working out. And so that's kind of what I take. That's kind of like what I do with my social media. Like I think about what I would want to read from other people. And it's interesting on LinkedIn because it's such a professional platform, and sometimes it's like, do I really want to talk about that on LinkedIn? I didn't get promoted. Do I need to talk about my mental health? But it's the story that I wanted to hear and needed to hear. And if I had maybe seen or heard it more, then maybe I wouldn't have gotten burnt out, being a nurse or an entrepreneur, because nobody really talks about that, especially in the business world. But that's the approach that I take with social media. I just do and don't think about it. And I try to be really, really authentic about it. And that's really what it is. It's so hard to start too. That's the other thing. But thinking about the story that I want to hear and actually just posting it, because if you've got that thing in drafts, it's gonna be stuck there, and it can't always be perfect, and it won't be perfect. And I really had to make peace with that, and that's hard coming from the nursing, background, because you want it to be, as a nurse, you want it to be as perfect as possible, everything clean, tidy, exact. But sometimes with, things that are creative and social media and even business, it'll never be perfect. So,
Right. And I definitely resonate with that myself. And I think that Kathy does too. And a lot of nurses that we know, it's really hard to pursue something or to share a story if we don't have it exactly perfect and well curated and planned out and all of that. And I think that's such a good message to share with nurses, especially those who might be listening. We don't need everything figured out to share our story or to start that company or to start a new venture. Even what you did with the sewing business, we don't need to know everything. And it's kind of like, you learn as you go, kind of like nursing itself as a profession. You get on the job, you learn it, and you build your skills as you go.
oh my gosh, so true. Um, and when I talk to nurses, I get a lot of like, oh, do I need to get the certification, or should I get my MBA, or do I need to take 50 more classes, or I'm worried about my colors and my logo. Just go for it. Just do it. Just jump and get your first customer, because the thing that you start out with is going to be so different than the thing that you end up with. And so it doesn't make a lot of sense to perfect it in the beginning. And you really want to take that into consideration, like any kind of customer feedback, especially. Uh, with Navi, we changed our pricing a handful of times. We changed our contracts, like we changed our website, just everything changed all the time. And so it didn't make sense just trying to perfect everything all at once in the beginning, and it was hard to make
Right.
peace with that. But that I when I do try to talk to nurses, I try to get that point across, um, and get them to jump and dive deep and go for it. And you don't need that extra class, and you don't need an MBA. You just do it.
Agreed. And I did want to touch upon your wellness journey too, because I have been really, appreciative of what you share on LinkedIn. I find your
Thank you.
posts very relatable and very authentic. And I just wanted to ask, what is a self-care practice that you do regularly, or what is a recommendation that you have for nurses to really prioritize their well-being if it's a really challenging journey for them right now?
Oh my gosh. I I really leaned into my family even when I didn't want to. It's so hard as a nurse to ask for help. That was the feedback that I got every year on my 360. You've got to ask for help, and like I'm not
Yes.
alone.
Mhm.
It's a lot of us as nurses. It's hard for us to like ask for or just ask for help, delegate, like reach out to others. And it's interesting because if somebody came to us and asked for help, we'd be like, oh my gosh, yes, of course I'll help you. Let me do all these things for you. So I don't know why it's so hard for us. But really leaning into my family, and working out helped me quite a bit. um, I also did a lot of therapy, and that was super, super helpful. So that just coupled with the physical piece, just going to the gym and getting angry at the weights and throwing them around, just it was all very healing, and so were the cookies. Really just like being okay with and not consumed by the hustle culture. Like, it's okay to be able to like take a step back and pause. And if you're feeling really overwhelmed, just and you're able to take some time off, I would really recommend it, honestly. Because that if I hadn't taken time off and I had tried to continue, I don't know what it would have, it wouldn't have ended up
Right.
as well as I thought it was going to. And so, yeah, taking that time off, working on, just working out and not being scared to ask for help. That's really what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to just have a little, if I can piggyback on what you said, taking that time off, and it could be something as ensuring that you take your days off, right? So you don't pick up the extra shift when they call because they're really, and you feel bad. Yes, we're all a team and we feel bad for our colleagues when we're running short, but just like you said, take that time off, right? Or make sure you take your break during your shift. But if it's the holiday that you get, you keep the holiday you get to take off, right? Take the vacations. I think we all think that it has to be something like, oh, I need to remove myself from the unit for like a couple of months, or maybe I'll do something different. But it could be something as ensuring that when it's my day off, it's my day off.
Do not disturb.
Right.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
And it doesn't, taking that time off doesn't make you less of a hard worker. It doesn't make you weak. You're still amazing and beautiful and wonderful. And if you do take that time off, or, you don't answer that phone call for that extra shift, and you do take your lunch break, even when things are getting crazy, that's okay, because then you can give back, even more when your cup is filled.
Yes, absolutely. That's one of my favorite, sayings, and what really needing to consider our cup when we're pouring so much from our cup, we don't have much left to give to ourselves, and so we really have to remember what helps us to fill our cup, and a lot of that is setting those boundaries, being really firm about that. But that's not something to feel guilty about, and I think in our culture, in our healthcare culture, we could really have a lot of guilt that's integrated and tapped into the work that we do. I did want to also acknowledge Adrian had a nice comment honoring your humanity, and I really like that too, because I think as nurses we honor so many others, and our patients and our team and their humanity, and we also need to honor our own and prioritize ourselves, because if we don't, then I mean that could be really troubling for us, certainly. And I did want to also ask, if there were any final thoughts that you wanted to share with any nurses who are listening, experienced nurses, aspiring nurses, just about your journey of nursing, or well-being, or just about your journey in general.
Yeah, I always, these are my two favorite books that I think everybody should read. The first one, and this one changed my life. It's called Mindset, but it talks about the growth mindset. And a growth mindset means everything is figure outable. You're not born with nursing skills. You're not born with business skills. You're not born with communication skills. It can all be learned, and that's really empowering for me. But I love this book, so I highly recommend it. And then the other one is called Get Together. I love this book because community is so important, and that's who I really leaned on when I've been happy, and when I haven't been so happy. When I was going through that dark time last year, I really leaned on my family unit and my nurse homies, and my community. They're so important, and having community really just helps you become more resilient all the obstacles that may come up. But I love this book because not only just that, but everything that I've done in business, whether it was at Navi or at Planly Health, it's really not just everything that I've done, but everything that's been my favorite is building a community, and that's hearing people's stories and empowering them and supporting them. And so, if you're a leader, and everybody's a leader, everybody's a leader. You're leading your patients, you're leading your teammates, and you don't have to have the title of manager or supervisor. You're still a leader. As a nursing student, you're a leader. But yeah, I love that book. Community is so important. That's really it. But I wanted to share those two. I carry them everywhere. And so, yeah, that's really it. And we have a cool community on LinkedIn too. I love our nursing community on LinkedIn. Everybody's so supportive and amazing. And it really it's so empowering. If I have a question, I can just call anybody. I can call Charlene, I can call Taufiki and Sarah, like anybody, and everybody will be willing to talk to me, whether it's like guiding me through a tough time or giving me some business advice or whatever that looks like. And so that's why I love those two books.
That's great. Thank you so much for the recommendations and for the insights, Ayan. I think that's really wonderful. I will definitely check out those books right after this as well. And, in the spirit of Thanksgiving, just to close, I wanted to ask, what are a few things that you're feeling gratitude for?
Oh my gosh. I'm grateful for you guys. I was so nervous to be here. But not even just that, just thinking about like how I met you, Charlene. Like we met at the Nurse Hackathon in 2019. Like, oh my gosh, that feels like so long ago, but that was like my first experience with a hackathon and meeting other weirdos that are nurses that are in business, because I didn't know anybody. But that was my tribe, and I met you there. And so just thinking about that journey from just being newbies to now where we're at, and all the progress that you've made, and you, Kathy, just meeting you today, like that's really what I'm grateful for, just this opportunity to be here. And this is really exciting. And I'm super excited just what you're working on with Fifth and Window. I know you guys are all about community as well. And that's really, really powerful. And yeah.
It's wonderful. Thank you so much, Ayan. We're really grateful for you too, all of your incredible work, for being such an incredible champion for nursing, entrepreneurship, and for mental health and well-being as well. Thank you so much for all that you do. And Kathy, any last comments, questions?
Yeah, so I just want to say that I am just so grateful, first of all, to meet you. I think, today will show so many young nurses that when they look in the mirror, they actually see someone that looks like them, who may have struggled, right? But that they can be a nurse, that they should be a nurse, and that they will be a nurse. So I'm just really grateful to have you here with us, so that all of my students can see that there's someone that looks like them in nursing. So I value that. I appreciate that. And I appreciate you.
You guys are so sweet. You're going to make me cry. And if anybody,
I also really love the, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, if there's anybody that needs anything, any help, or any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. I'm on LinkedIn. You can bother Charlene or Kathy. I'm on Instagram as well, but I'm always open to answering any questions, or if you need any help with anything, whether it's nursing or business, I'll be here.
Yeah, that sounds wonderful. Yes, if you're not currently following Ayan on LinkedIn, I definitely recommend you all to do so. She has some of the best posts and just such an incredible journey that she has. So thank you so much, Ayan, for sharing. And thank you for being a guest with us today. We really appreciate you and the time that you took out of your day to be here with
Yes.
us.
Of course, now you have to visit me.
Oh, we're gonna visit you
Not
in
in the
that
summer,
beautiful workspace. Yeah,
not in the Arizona
yeah,
summer.
yeah,
Thanks, everyone.
absolutely. We'll come and visit. Thank you to everyone who joined us today. We are so grateful for you all. And just in the spirit of Thanksgiving, we hope that you all have a wonderful holiday. Please spend that time with your loved ones, with the people in your community, and yes, we're just so grateful for all of you. So thank you all for coming out. Please find Ayan on social media. I'll go ahead and put some links in our post where you could find her. And then if you want to learn more about Fifth Window, you could find out more about us on our website through www.fifthwindow.com. That's FIFTH window.com. And you could learn more about us through our app in the App Store and Google Play Store if you search Fifth Window. And we host these monthly spotlights. So we host these monthly spotlights. And then you'll see us more. So just stay tuned and we'll see you at the next one. But thank you all so much and happy Thanksgiving. Thanks,
Thank
everybody.
you. Bye.
Bye.